haven't already. But if you're like really itching to get into the system and start playing around, there's a link at the top of the screen here that Jason will share in the chat, or the chat box, which actually gives me some storage credit. So I'd be super grateful if you're creating an account for the first time to use that. So I'd like to kick off today's webinar with a quick poll. There are going to be 4 statements that show up on the screen in the form of a pop-up box. I would love it if you could select any that apply to you. So Jason, if you can, and they're also in the back.
All right, we have launched polling, so it should be. But right now we have 0% who have voted. Oh, there we go. All right.
You can choose more than one.
All right, we have 66% who have voted. 75%.
Awesome.
82%. Let's try to get 100. Almost 90%, 92%. All right, should we stop it there?
Yeah, that sounds good. Great. So if any of, even one of these applied to you, that's great. Me too. So I have said or felt at least one of these things at various points in my teaching career, and especially now when we're in very extraordinary circumstances. I'm finding that Edpuzzle has been a way for me to address many of these things, not only providing personalized and self-paced learning to my students, but also giving me really good data about what content and language support they need, because I'm not in front of them every day to get the data in ways that I would normally. So moving into just a quick introduction of who is me. So I'm Cassandra Bell. I am an ELL specialist at Excel Academy. I also serve as the department head. I am currently lead teaching a level 2 ELD course, as well as a sheltered content course for math. I co-teach an SEI English and algebra, or an SEI English section and an algebra section. Another fun fact is that I'm in the UMass Boston Ed Leadership Cohort, and I mentioned that in case there's something you're ever considering and you have questions about that program. The last thing I'll say is that I have no affiliation with Edpuzzle formally. I'm just a huge fan. And then Natalie, do you want to introduce yourself quickly?
Hi everybody, I'm Natalie Pacas. I also work at Excel. I teach ELD 3 and civics for English learners, and I co-teach chemistry as well as ELA for 9th graders.
Great. Thank you. So I have a few session milestones that I want to make sure I'm clear about on the front end. The first is that you have a chance to experience Edpuzzle today from the perspective of a student. The second is that you get to explore some of the more advanced features, including question types, cutting video. I'll expose you to the voiceover feature also. And then finally, that you can create and share a scaffolded video assignment for an upcoming lesson. I do want to do another poll though, just to know who is in the space today. And so there's another box that'll pop up on your screen, and I would love to know where you fall on this spectrum from being a pro, being familiar, or brand new to the platform.
All right, and we're close to 96. We might get 100%. Oh, we went down.
Oh, we were close.
We're close. Should I end polling?
Yeah, that's great. Thanks. Great. Okay, fantastic. So nice. We have a little bit of everything today. That's great. So my hope is that regardless of where you put yourself along the spectrum, that you'll walk away with something new, and also have a chance to connect with others who are using Edpuzzle in a similar space or context. So a couple just high level details about Edpuzzle. The first is that it's free. And you can upgrade. I don't use the pro features, and so everything you'll see today is characteristic of the free platform. You choose any video from YouTube or create your own. You'll embed your own assessment questions and content into the video, share it with your students, and then have options to track their progress. I do want to note that while you can create and embed your own, you can create your own videos, embed your own content. That is something that I do regularly. I won't be showing you how to do that today, but I would be happy to connect with you afterwards and just share a little bit more about how I approach that. So a few things that make Edpuzzle really powerful in my experience. The first is that it's a wonderful tool for differentiation. Students are watching the video at their own pace. They can pause, they can rewatch as needed. You're also able to embed different question types to really target diverse learning needs. The second is engagement. You can select and create high interest videos that engage students of all levels and across grades. The other piece that I think is really key is Rigor, being able to scaffold prompts using different question types, pop-up reminders, voiceovers. It gives you the opportunity to really adjust that as well, depending upon what you're targeting. Then we have accountability. I love that I can see who is watching my videos and who's answering questions. I can see how long they're spending. And students can't skip ahead or open up other tabs while they're doing this. And so it gives them an opportunity to focus in on what you're asking them to do. Finally, I think the convenience and transparency piece is really key here. Grades import automatically to Google Classroom or to whatever learning management system you're using. And so while I'm imagining that Google Classroom is one of the more common platforms that folks are using. I think I've been told that Blackboard integrates Canvas, Moodle, PowerSchool. So there are a lot of options depending upon how your school or district sets up its LMS. So, but now bringing the focus more to how to support emerging bilingual students and what makes this a great option for them. I made this list as including but not limited to. There are 3 ways that I have found this to be particularly powerful, both in person and remotely. The first is direct instruction. I found it to be really helpful for building background knowledge with my bilingual students, as well as introducing new content, new vocabulary, also modeling academic language and context. The formative assessment tools are really helpful. It's been great for assessing listening comprehension and then also pinpointing areas for review or remediation if necessary. This has been really helpful because I'm not in front of my students every day, so this has been a really good source of data. And then finally, just extension and application. This has been awesome for reviewing key unit concepts. And if anyone's using performance assessments or integrated performance assessments, this can be used as a summative assessment tool as well if you're assessing interpretive skills. And then finally, so then how can you view Edpuzzle? There's 2 ways to do this. I will admit, I've never used the live mode. I think it's pretty new. But I've always gone with the classic, which is where students watch a video individually, they work at their own pace, and then you can use that for remote learning or classroom stations while you run either another station or do personalized instruction with other students. The live mode actually looks like it could be used for Zoom. I haven't tried it. I would love to hear from someone if they have. I would guess that the best use is in class, but I think given how excited my students have been about Kahoot over Zoom, I think it's possible to use the live mode for this too, which is where students will watch the video together and then respond on a device. And then there's 2 ways to set up a class. So the first is a classic class. This is what I use, where students will sign up using a school or an email address, and then there's a teacher dashboard where you can monitor students' progress over time and see how they've performed on all the assignments that you've given them. This integrates with the learning management system, so a classic class talks directly to Google Classroom, and it's really, really seamless. I will assign things through it, and then it'll just show up on my Google Classroom stream. An open class is actually what you're going to see in a few moments. I think this also is a newer feature. Students do not need an account for this, and you'll just see progress 1 video at a time. If you're an elementary teacher or if you're not using it as regularly, my understanding is that this is a really good way to go. So now I'd like to give us some play time. And So this link will take you to an open class where I have left you a student-facing assignment to do so you can experience what this platform is like from a student's perspective. I also want to take a moment while people are doing this. I think it'll take you between 3 and 5 minutes to pause and answer some questions that have come up in the chat box, and then come back together and sort of process that. So you can click this link, and I think Jason will be able to put it in the chat for you. You do not need an account. This is an open class. And so I just want to invite you to go and play in the system and look forward to your thoughts and feedback in about 5 minutes. And then Natalie, have there been any questions?
No questions so far.
Great. And if anyone does have a question now, I think I would invite you to raise your hand too, and we can take some questions live while people are playing with the student-facing lesson. So you can do that by raising your hand.
Okay, we have Joanna, so I'm going to allow her to talk.
Great.
All right, you've been unmuted, Joanna.
I got it. Okay. How do I can't click on that link. And I tried to type it in a new browser, but then it asked for a class code.
Oh, interesting. Were you able to see it in the chat?
I haven't looked in the chat. Hold on.
Let's check the chat.
Oh, I see. Okay, let's see.
And let me know if that doesn't work. If not, because I believe the verifio ending is the class code, I think.
All right, let me try. I just don't, but I don't know how to get out of your screen to paste it into something. Oh, okay, I see. Okay, I think I've got it.
Great. Okay.
Thank you.
Enjoy the video.
Thank you.
All right. I'm setting my timer for about 3 more minutes. Oh, that's a great question.
We have a few questions. One of the question is, do you upload the individual assignments, or is there a place in Edpuzzle that offers assignments to you?
You want to take that one, Natalie?
Yeah, actually, there's a place where you can find videos from previous teachers, from teachers that have used videos before. And you can use those. There's a section where you can find them. Also, if someone from your school has created some videos, you can also use those as well.
Yeah. Yes, and you'll see what that looks like in the presentation in just a few moments. I'll show you where to go to get all of those options, but you can also upload your own video content. That's another option that I think is great if you use screencasting software or anything like that. So more to come. There was another question about slowing down the speed of the video. I don't think that you can slow down the rate of speech. What you can do is give students opportunities to rewatch sections as many times as they need to. And then also, I'll show you in a few moments, there's an option to record a voiceover. So if the speed is too fast, you have the option to record your own audio over the images if you're really committed to using that video. Great. That was my timer. So it looks like that was about 4-ish minutes. If anyone needs more time, maybe, I don't know if the raise the hand feature works the same way, but I would love to just know if anyone wants a little bit more time to finish the video.
Yeah, if you need more time, raise your hand and we'll see you.
Yeah.
Okay, one person needs more time.
Okay. I'm doing another, like maybe 30 seconds. And maybe actually, while folks are finishing up, we can go to the poll. So now that you've experienced Edpuzzle, I'm very curious about how each of you sees it supporting your instruction. So I gave some options that were the things that I find it to be most effective for, but now I'm curious about your perceptions having now experienced it. So Jason, if you're able to put the poll.
Yes, okay.
Thank you. Yeah, and if you have other things that have come to mind, we'd love to know about it in the Q&A.
Yeah, so I am lowering all your hands. If you do have a question, please ask in the Q&A. All right, we are at 83% who voted.
We have a great group. Everyone is.
All right, let me know when you want to end the polling.
Let's see if we can we hit 90?
We are at 86%.
Okay, I'll take it. I'll take it. Great. So it looks like most people are seeing this as an assessment tool, as well as introducing and reinforcing vocabulary. And yes, and some building of background knowledge. Great. So I'm glad. I'm glad that came through from just your experience of what a student assignment would feel like. And we'll check back on the Q&A in a minute and see if anybody had any other ideas. So the next portion of this presentation focuses on the teacher side of this. So the first thing, and there was a question to this effect, but I'll just to reiterate, there are 3 ways to really start creating and assigning content to students. The first is that in the Edpuzzle platform, as you'll see in a moment, you can use a ready-made lesson from another teacher. There are so many assignments and so much great content already. The other way to do it is to identify a YouTube video that you want to use and then create your own assignment from that. The third way is that you can create your own, your own video or your own PowerPoint and then upload that as a video and then embed your own questions into it. So those are your 3 options. So my suggested, I have a couple like ways that we could, that you can access the next part of this presentation as you look at the teacher end of this. I would suggest signing up for an Edpuzzle account at this time. That's one way to do this. The other is to just follow along with my presentation. I'm going to show you a few screens and talk you through how I go about navigating the system and assigning things to students. And then afterwards, I'm going to hang out and I'm happy to like walk you through some things or answer any questions that you have. So you can either do that and just watch and then go back in later, or create or log into your account and then explore this side by side with me as I go. So I think, let's see if I'm gonna maybe check. It looks like we have a few new questions. And so what I'll do is give you an opportunity now to either create or log into an account and then answer some questions for the next couple of minutes. And then we'll come back together and we'll look at the platform from a teacher view. Great. So Sylvia has said she also uses it with grammar lessons. That's great. Yes, and I'm curious as to what that looks like. I think that's a great thing to do. In fact, I'm curious what. Great. So I think, Natalie, I think we should answer a few of these live. So Diana asked about experimenting with asynchronous lessons through Screencastify. So that's usually what I use this platform for, is similar to what you're saying, Diana. I will record my own voiceover on a presentation or a demonstration and then upload it into Edpuzzle and then embed comprehension checks and prompts throughout. After this, I don't have like a space to talk through how that works, but if you'd like to stay on after, I think that would be a great thing to talk more about. I think it's definitely an effective tool. So thank you for that. I think we should talk more. There's
another question about limit on the amount of videos.
Yes, so the storage credit piece is tricky. I'm not sure exactly how many videos you get. I know that if you have a pro account, which I do not, you have a lot more storage space. You can host a certain number at a time, and I've never run out. I think you can have quite a few. That's a good question. I don't know the answer. I think maybe I can go in and look, but there definitely is a limit depending upon your plan of how many that you can keep in your content.
We also have a raised hand from Johanna.
Oh, great.
I was just wondering, can you only use videos from YouTube or can it be from anywhere?
That's a good question. I've never used videos that weren't YouTube. I've uploaded my own directly from my desktop. So if I have like a video file that I've created, I can upload it straight into Edpuzzle, but I'm not sure about other like video hosting services. Are there any in particular that you're wondering about?
Well, I guess I was thinking more of listening sites than video. I've used, I'm trying to think of what it's called, like Special English, or there's another really great, that I can't think of off the top of my head, another really great listening site that I would need to embed questions kind of in the middle of the speaking. I was just curious if it would work for that.
That is a good question. I don't know. I mean, you probably could.
It's called ListenWise. ListenWise.
Oh yeah, ListenWise is awesome.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, I love them. But yeah, I don't know if you could. Yeah, that's a good question. I'm not sure. I've only ever uploaded my own or just used one that was already linked in the platform.
Okay, thank you.
Great. So I think maybe Natalie, as we kind of go through this next bit, if there are some that you want to like maybe type in as we go, because there are some other really good questions. There's also some great tips that have come through in the Q&A that I'd love to share out at towards the end, because I think there's some really great ways that the system's being used that I'm not planning on talking about. So we're gonna, if you've added some tips, we would love to share those out at the end. So what I'm going to do now is get into the teacher side of this. So either you feel free to follow along on your own screen or just watch as I go through a few things, and hopefully this will answer some of the questions that you have. So this screen here is what you'll see when you log into Edpuzzle. There's a couple of things that I'd like to point out on the home screen in terms of starting points. So the first is that if you have a video in mind that you'd like to use, you've gone into YouTube and you found it, you can type the title into that box and it will show up. I've never had it not. Now, if you aren't sure what you want to do, maybe you're planning a unit, maybe you just have a topic in mind, or you're not sure, the popular channels place is a great place to start. I have personally found Khan Academy videos to be great for certain things. The National Geographic videos I really like, especially to help me integrate more math and science language into my ESL classes. And then TED Talks, because I teach high school, I find that TED Talks are a really great, rigorous option for helping students just access a lot more complex content. So those are my favorites. And I often will just come in and browse and find those and sort of do that as I'm building out units to make sure that I'm integrating this sort of listening as well as video into my units. A couple tips for finding engaging videos. I've had a few flops, and so I've discovered that visuals do really matter. I think finding interesting animation, things that are going to grab students is definitely important. Also, certain just discourse features. So I think when speech is too dense or that it's speaking too quickly, I find that can be a pretty quick put off for students. And so I really look for videos where the narration is clear and where I'm really looking to test content rather than just cram students' ears full of language. Also length. So that would be the last thing. I think anything more than like 5 to 7 minutes can be a lot, especially if you have a lot of prompts and questions built in. So just considering those things as you're finding content for students. The next thing I'd like to show you is this is the video that you just watched. And so there's a few pieces that I just want to point out from the teacher side. The first is that down here in the bottom right, where my little red arrow just appeared, when you select a video in the platform, it'll give you the option to edit or to duplicate whatever video it is. And that goes for any video at all, even if it's a lesson that another teacher created and shared. This just gives you a jumping off point for either taking theirs and just assigning it to your class if it's ready to go, or adding your own content into it. The bottom here, let's see if I can, Jason, you showed me a cool tool where I can show people things. Let's see, I can maybe, let's see.
Yeah, you gotta find the spotlight.
Yeah, that's what I want. That's what I want, the spotlight. Here it is, yes. So these little dewdrop looking things, these are where questions have been embedded. So you can see at what points in the lesson someone has added content or you've added content. And then you can play and just go and experience them for yourself to see if it's the right content for your class or if you'll need to make some adjustments. If you choose to do edits, then you will see this. And so I spend the majority of my time in this screen here. You have questions, you have voiceover, and you have cut. I personally don't do a lot of the voiceover, I tend to select videos or just create my own content, but that's an option for you. The questions are great. You can do multiple choice or open-ended, and you can also add notes which are just little pop-ups. The tips that I have for this, just based on my experience over the years, is that using a variety of question types is great. So you'll notice that I embed both multiple choice and open-ended questions into any video. I also find that notes are really helpful for activating students' background knowledge or prompting them to write something down or rewatch a section, especially during a time when I'm not there in front of them to just, prompt them with those sorts of things. And then finally, my other learning has been that too many questions close together can make the video difficult to watch. And so I try to aim for 20 to 30-second intervals between prompts. I just gave a lot of information. I would love to see if there have been any questions that have come up around. Great. Okay. Great. Okay. There is one question I do want to answer live, which is around, so a question about there being ads. Sometimes there are, sometimes there aren't. That's all about the original video in my experience. And so one of the things that I do frequently is I cut them out using the cut feature, because they can be pretty distracting, or they occur at the end, and so I'll just clip it. And so speaking of cutting, I just wanted to quickly show that I do often cut the end of my videos, because I find that there is kind of that extraneous content at the end. And so because I set my videos so that students can not skip ahead, that's one way to just give them a little bit of time back at the end so they don't have to watch ads. And then once you're done, so once you have embedded questions using the question tab, you've done any voiceovers that you wanted to, and you've cut it in ways that, cut out anything in the middle or at the end, then you just hit finish. And then you'll be able to assign it to your class. So you'll come and you'll hit assign, and then what you'll see is a screen that looks like this. And so you can do a few things here. You'll notice that the one that I'm assigning is in the Edpuzzle demo class. So it's an open class that you were just in. You also see my two real classes here that have the little Google Classroom logo. That's because they're connected to my Google Classroom. So if I were to assign this lesson to them, it would just show up for my students. I also tend to turn on the prevent skipping, as well as closed captions. One word of caution for closed captions is that sometimes they are inaccurate. And so I always watch the video with closed captions on to make sure that they actually do pick up the correct language, because I've seen that sometimes they don't. And then the last is to post it to Google Classroom. So that is a very, very basic overview of how to start and assign a lesson to students. I'd like to use the remainder of the time to just respond to questions or tips that you have using the platform, and just to give you a chance to play around with it and let us know if there's any questions that come up during that time. My referral link is there again if you are still pre-creation of your account. But I think we've got about 20 minutes, and so I would love to just use the remainder of the time for questions. And so I'm going to go through, and I think I'll just try to answer these live. And Natalie, please jump in too. So one question about, will the recording be posted on the MATSOL site to watch? Yes, I believe so. Jason, can you confirm that?
Yes, it will be put onto a archive page.
Great, okay. Another question about So can you speak to the issue of assigning an Edpuzzle now during school closure that students say they can't access? A lot of students are not using their school accounts and it's causing problems. Oh, that's a great question. So if students are not using their school accounts, so it actually sounds like using an open class might be the best way to address that, because if I'm understanding the open class correctly, I don't think students need an account, they just need a code. So I hope that that answers that question, because I think that that makes sense. If students are not able to get into their school email for any reason, all they need is a device. But I also do think that question speaks to like access issues that students might have. And so I think, yeah, it's something to be aware of. And I know that when my students have reported not being able to use the technology, that there has to be a way that I work around that. Oh, great. So there's a question about notes. So notes are, actually the notes are what you embed. So they're the same as a question, so they're the same as a multiple choice or an open-ended question. Those are created by the teacher. And those are just ways for you to remind them of whatever it is that you want to remind them of. That could be defining a vocabulary word. That could be prompting them to rewatch a section, or sometimes I'll put a note and say, hey, write this down. So just anything that you feel as the teacher might be good to bring to your students' attention. There's a question about seeing student progress in an open class. So in an open class, my understanding is that you can see the student progress for just the video that you've assigned. If you want to watch students' progress over time, over the course of multiple videos, I believe you need to use the classic class where a student has to log in. If a student uses an open class, how do we know they finished their assignment? Yeah, I think similarly, I think you'll be able to see that they finished it. What you won't be able to see, I believe, is their completion rate across multiple assignments. I've actually never used the open class function, and I think it's relatively new, so I'm not sure. I'm not entirely sure what that data looks like.
And I think like on the page, there's a section that says gradebook. So over there, you should be able to see what the students have answered.
Okay. So another question was, how might you compare this tool to Explain Everything, Kami, and other similar tools? Why did you choose Edpuzzle over some other tools? So I have never used the others. I've never used Explain Everything, nor have I used Kami. So I'm not sure if whoever asked that question, if you want to raise your hand and say a little bit more about those, that might help give some context. But I don't know those two. Okay. We have another question. Can co-teachers view the same teacher dashboard? I imagine you can. I think, but I'm not sure. I know that you can view the same Google Classroom, because as a co-teacher, I'm shared on that. And I can see students' completion on an Edpuzzle in Google Classroom. I don't know if you can. I think you'll need to use your own account. I don't know, Natalie, have you had any experience with that?
No, I'm not sure either.
Yeah, so that's a great question. I do know that you could see it through Google Classroom if that's the learning management system that you use. Ooh. There's a question, can the questions be read aloud to students? That is an awesome question. I think yes, but I think you would need to do it via a note, which I'm not sure if you could see them simultaneously. So one thing you can do is record yourself in a note reading the question. What we should look into though is whether or not a student can see and hear the note at the same time as they see the question. But I think you would have to do multiple steps. It's definitely not set up for that automatically. But I think we should suggest that to Edpuzzle. I think that's an awesome idea. Let's see, I'm gonna make sure I didn't miss any questions. Great, so there's a question about creating questions to go with the videos. So what you'll do, and I think maybe it makes sense for me to actually share my screen, but if I'll try verbally first though, which is that if you are in the edit portion of the screen, I'll go back to, so if you are in, I'm gonna try my cool spotlight thing here. So if you're in the edit, you'll go to the questions and then you can hit play. And then at a point in the video where you would like to insert a question, you'll just need to hit question. So I could be watching the video and I think, oh, I want to ask a question there. I'll just hit the question type that I want. I hope that answers the question. And then it'll show up once you're done as one of these little dewdrops.
Cassandra, there's another question. If you use this at the beginning of your lesson or at the end, or if you have any preference with that.
Good question. Yeah, that's a great question. When we were in school, I usually used them for independent work. So I would use it as a background building activity or a reinforcement activity while I did other things with other students. So it was usually in the context of stations where students were getting what they needed from the video and then applying it, and we were just rotating, or I had it as homework as part of like a larger learning experience. I think when we are back in person, I'm really looking forward to using it for project-based learning and using it as part of that process. I'm also really interested in using it in a summative assessment capacity, so using it as a way to actually assess student skills. But I think the beauty of this is it can be used at any point, though I do think there's a lot of, it's a strong option for asynchronous learning, both in person and remotely. Great. And please feel free to raise your hand too if you have other questions that you'd like to bring to the group. I think we have about 10 minutes. Is that right, Jason?
That is correct.
Okay.
Okay, we have Leah, and I am
Oh,
allowing
great.
her to talk and unmute.
Hi, Cassandra. So great for you to provide this for everyone. This is really helpful, and I think especially for teachers who have students at all different levels and language abilities. So I was just wondering about tracking the progress for students, and just wondering how you use it to track the progress. And you mentioned the beginning too, that this is great to use as, I think you did, maybe use as sort of like an informal assessment, but just wondering how you use the information that you get from how the students do to inform your lessons, and then just to keep track of where they are.
Absolutely. So a couple things. The first is that generally I view these lessons as being in the context of a unit rather than necessarily connected to each other. So the data that I'm getting from one of these Edpuzzle lessons, and usually it's direct instruction. I think right now in particular, I'm using it to introduce new content. Then students show up to a live class after that. So what I'm doing is I'm doing a presentation video with embedded formative assessment questions, checks for understanding. And then when we have, I use that data to then really figure out what my focus is going to be when we have a Zoom class. Both in terms of like what language I'm going to focus on or assess, and also to figure out where students might have had a misunderstanding. And I'm finding it particularly helpful right now with some of my sheltered content instruction, but also in my English language development class, to really, because I'm not able to read students in the same way as I could if we were in person. So that's how I'm using it currently. I think in like, you know, in in-person learning, I'm using it as a way of assessing where students are baseline. I tend to use these earlier in a unit, though I think, like I mentioned earlier, I'm looking for ways to use them as more summative assessments too.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, thanks for the question. Okay, there was a question about getting to the website. Yeah, so if you're having a hard time getting to the website, I'm not sure, we might have given you the wrong link. We should probably make sure you've got the right one. But also, if you just go to edpuzzle.com and you sign up with your email, you should be able to get in. But if you follow the bit.ly link here on this screen, this should prompt you to create an account. I hope that works.
I think they may have to log out of the open classroom first.
Okay. Great. I'm not seeing any new questions.
Okay, well, if there are no new questions, would you like to call it?
Yeah, I can close this out. I have like.
There was one.
Oh,
One more
great.
question.
Thanks, Natalie.
If you can use the voiceover section for just sections of the video rather than the whole thing.
I don't know. I don't think so. I think you have to, I think it's all or nothing. I've never done it because I usually have my own content. But that is a great question. I'm sure it's pretty easy to play with and see. I know you can cut portions, so it would make sense that you could do both. But I'm not sure. That would be a great feature. I think we have some great feedback and like suggestions for Edpuzzle.
All right. Well, if you'd like to
Cool.
call it.
So finally, I just wanted to say a quick thank you to everyone for your participation today, and also just for your dedication to your students, showing up at 5 p.m. on a Monday for a webinar. So thank you so much for being here and for being here for our students. And I wish you all happy teaching in the final few weeks of the school year. I said it, I think we have sort of stuck around, but I will continue to stick around for the next few minutes and answer any lingering questions you might have, in particular about Google Classroom, because we didn't address that in too much detail, and anything else that came up for you today. And please feel free to email me at any time. My email's there, cbell@excelacademy.org. And I hope to see you at MATSOL next year.
And on behalf of MATSOL, we would like to thank both Cassandra and Natalie for presenting today. It was an awesome presentation. Thank you very much. And when you leave as an attendee, you will have a evaluation to take. So please take that. We always welcome more feedback.
Yes.
And go ahead and register for more too on the 2020 conference page at matsol.org. All right. Yeah,
Right.
if you have any more questions, Cassandra has volunteered to stay longer to answer any more. And we'll stay until 6 o'clock, I guess.
Great.
Yeah.
And please feel free to reach out via email too. That's always welcome.
Yes. Let me just type that out.
Ooh.
All right, Leah, I'm allowing you to talk and I'm muting you.
Thank you.
Hey, Leah.
Hi. Since you decided to stick around for a little bit longer, I am brand new to Google Classroom, so I didn't know if you wanted to take time to just quickly share about how
Sure.
these two are connected.
Definitely. So let me see if I can quickly get this. Hold on. Let's see if I can. There we go. So I can show you. I'll just go to my Google Classroom really fast. Or actually, maybe the better way to do this is to show you. Do you you're using Google Classroom and you have classes set up already?
Yeah, I just set it up. I don't think any of my students have actually gone to my Google Classroom, but it's set up. And I know that it's an option when I already registered in Edpuzzle.
Mm-hmm.
It said you could connect your students.
Yes.
So I said, great, but I didn't really know like what happened after that point.
So if you can see here, you can do like add new class.
Mm-hmm.
And then it should give you an option to click Google Classroom.
Oh, Cassandra, you're actually not sharing.
Yeah.
The screen.
Oh, you can't see that one?
No.
Okay.
I did do that though.
How do I fix that? How do I fix the screen?
Share
again?
screen again and click your desktop.
Great, thank you. All right, let's try that. All right, can you see it now?
Oh yeah.
Great. So I think this is the easiest way to do it. If you hit add new class and then you go to Classroom, it should, because you can see all of my classes here.
Yeah, I did that.
Give you the option to import or to sign in. Did you see something similar when you tried?
Yeah, I did. I saw my class, and so I clicked on the class, and then it said, I think like upload students, and then asked me if the students had permission for Edpuzzle.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
Wonder why. Natalie, do you remember that process? The first time I linked my account was a couple years ago.
No, I don't. Maybe it's because she doesn't have any students in her Google Classroom account yet.
I don't know. And,
Yeah.
and Leah, full disclosure, Leah and I know each other. So Leah, I'm wondering if it's because of the age group.
Yeah, maybe. Because it's grades 3 to 5, so maybe that's why.
I wonder if there's like additional privacy stuff in place for your group.
That's
I don't
possible.
know. Yeah, let's troubleshoot that.
I mean, I can play. I certainly can play around with it in more time.
Yeah.
Just wondering, like, you know, how it kind of looks for you, and then do your students only access Edpuzzle through their Google Classroom?
Correct. Yeah. So they click on whatever assignment I post for them in Google Classroom. So it like shows up in their feed, and then it links them directly in. And then because we use Google, they have Google emails connected to our school. And so it's pretty seamless. If you're not working in that ecosystem, I'm not sure if it's as easy.
Right. Yeah. Because I mean, Google Classroom is totally new to them. So I'm just wondering how easy it would be for them, you know, distance learning, how to go through. And these are actually SLIFE students too. So
yeah. I don't know. Maybe. Yeah. I almost wonder if there's like a way for you to like model it for them on Zoom or something, since you've started doing
Zooming. Yeah.
Oh, well,
yeah.
We can tackle that one offline. I'm legitimately curious about how to best do that. You know, when you're building a skill set that you didn't have the opportunity to do in person. At least we had that in our favor.
Right.
This as we tech set up. So it's a different challenge.
Yeah.
Yeah. But
okay.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for hanging out. It was great. Great job.
Thank you.
First time. So
yeah.
All right.
Cool.
Yeah, and I
Thanks,
do want to be mindful of everyone's time. It is 6:02.
All right. Thanks, Jason.
So yeah, I am stopping.